the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9.
All the second stage tanks now pressurized. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Recently, a friend on Twitter tagged me and a few other anti-feminists in a retweet of a feminist-themed political cartoon that had been published in The New Yorker, a well-loved and respected establishment media publication, because, you know, feminists have no power and no influence. I'm not really enamored of feminist-themed political cartoons because, frankly, feminist humor just isn't. Worse, I can usually think of what the artist could have said that would have been funny, and somehow that just annoys the hell out of me. However, a friend did tag me, so I looked. It's even more annoying when there's nothing the artist could have done to redeem the joke. The drawing was of a girl being read a bedtime story by her father, with the caption, "Skip to the part where the princess climbs to the top of the corporate ladder." So much fail, all packed into one comic, then exacerbated by the original poster's edition. Yes, let's. With hashtags International Women's Day, Equal Pay Day, Equality, Feminism, and Equal Rights, indicating that the caption should be implemented in real life. HBR Talk with Hannah Wallen. The obvious first question is why the OP thinks corporate advancement should be a skip-to-the-part experience for anybody, considering the involved responsibilities. Then there is the question of why he thinks that skipping should be specific to women. If it's something that can be skipped, why should anybody have to get there the hard way, climbing from the bottom up, struggling to maintain balance while striving to gain ground the whole time? This brings me to the question I asked in response to the retweet. Why would a princess need to climb when she is already above the entire system? In response, the OP blocked my friend and me, but not until after I'd archived the tweet. When I went back to look at the archive in preparation for this video, I realized the OP was the cartoonist himself. Apparently, he wants women to be at the top of the corporate ladder, but he doesn't want to listen to anything we have to say about it, especially when that discussion happens to highlight a screaming contradiction to the privileged male oppressor, oppressed female victim narrative. Hashtag feminism so fragile. It's a shame, really. It means he won't experience Princess Butthurt of Femitopia's expedition to the top of the corporate ladder. He'll never hear how it starts out with an epic struggle to escape the confines of her ivory tower, a unique adventure in and of itself. After all, her fashionably asymmetrical bob just doesn't afford her the same kind of travel accommodations as that anti-feminist pick-me Rapunzel. So the window is of no use as an exit. She's not pretty enough to be sent by her wicked queen into the woods with a huntsman to act as her executioner, or a diligent enough worker to meet a fairy godmother. Nor is there a hideous beast guarding the tower so as to attract knights in shining armor to rescue her from her plight. As a result, the poor thing has no other choice but to try and make use of the most unfeminine method of escape available. Reaching out with one trembling hand, she ends her ordeal of captivity by opening the door and skipping merrily toward the stairs. Okay, so maybe a feminist might not like hearing that story. After all, the princess did the impossible. Everybody knows women are supposed to wait for feminist-lobbied law and policy to open doors for us. Who would believe the story of a woman who can open doors for herself? Still, our paladin of pictorial perfection will also miss out on the arduous journey following the princess's daring escape. Her first challenge? Moving forward. After all, there's only room for one person at the top of the corporate ladder, so she cannot take any guard or any guide. This is a one-woman expedition that begins with the simplest of rituals. She picks up her own 2 feet and walks. Down the long and winding steps of the tower she marches before opening yet another door, all by herself, to begin an even longer trek down the hillside. Scandalous! How could we ever present such an absurd sequence of events? Isn't this supposed to be a feminist fairy tale? Where are the financial aid programs for the princess's quest? Where is the female role model for her to follow? Everybody knows a woman cannot move forward without a female role model and money from a feminist program. What the hell is wrong with this script? This would, of course, explain why our cartoonist chaperone is unlikely to hear about the next leg of the adventure of Princess Butthurt and the ladder of corporate acclaim. At the bottom of the hill her ivory tower tops, our autocratic adventurer chances upon a road sign made tall and wide so it cannot be missed, right in front of a peculiar bridge. "This way to the nation of Corporatopia," the sign proclaims, pointing at the sparse but shimmery alabaster walkway. To the delight of the princess, each step along the bridge, comprised of intermittent pearly slats on a golden rope, appears to contain a reward. Jewels and precious metals, medallions and trophies she can bring back to her room at the top of the tower upon her return. To her dismay, the distance between solid footholds seems to increase with every step, making the passage risky and onerous. Still, this seems to be the only route to her destination. Determined, she ponders her situation, then grabs the sign and steps onto the bridge. As she had initially observed, though the slats themselves are fairly stable, each step is followed by a wider hole than the last, so that while she struggles for balance, she is also compelled to stretch her stride more and more as she progresses down the path. Meanwhile, her prizes are becoming difficult to stash. Initially, she had simply put the gold and silver in her purse, but now she is encountering things that are harder to maintain. She can wear the medallions, but the trophies are a bigger challenge. She eventually resorts to cannibalizing a big swatch of the massive skirt of her princess gown to use as a loot sack. Thus encumbered, with each clanging, pinging step, Princess Butthurt acquires more rewards to cherish, making her balance that much harder to sustain until she reaches the final gap before her last step. Here, faced with a farther distance than her legs can stretch, she lays down the road sign to bridge the gap. The crossing is now manageable, the gap split into 2 halves by a wooden arrow pointing toward the grass ahead of her. This way, its bold letters remind her, to Corporatopia. Lightly stepping across, our princess is back on solid ground. Looking back toward her tower, she realizes it's very far away, and on much higher ground than where she's standing. Still, she's that much closer to the challenge she started this journey to face. She has, after all, reached Corporatopia. That ladder has to be around here somewhere. Turning away from her now distant safe space, the princess finds herself at the edge of a sharp drop into what appears to be a deep chasm filled with clouds of industrial smoke. Unable to see the bottom, she has no way to assess the risks involved in trying to traverse it. Looking around her, she sees no more bridges, no more pathways toward her ultimate goal. Disheartened, she cries out piteously, "Oh no! How am I supposed to climb to the top of the corporate ladder now?" A question the answer to which our poor, deprived paladin of patriarchal portraiture who has chosen to avoid this story altogether will likely never hear.
"What do you mean, lady?"
growls a man's voice from somewhere below the edge of the cliff.
"It's down here."
This week, HBR Talk will discuss the significance of a slap at the Oscars and its relation to a political cartoon that both starkly highlights and catastrophically ignores the implications of female privilege in its effort to promote a crippling oppression narrative. You can find a link to the stream running at 7:30 p.m. Eastern at honeybadgerbrigade.com. And here we are. It's 7:30 p.m., and it is time for the technical difficulties, of which I've only had one so far here.
It's actually 7:41.
Yeah.
Hannah.
We started only a minute late though. Well, we started on time, but we started the actual show a minute late.
It was actually way better than usual. So.
Yeah. Not too many technical difficulties.
Oh my God, I couldn't do your job. Let me tell you.
Yes, you
I can't
could.
even stream on one platform.
Oh my gosh. Well, actually, this is like streaming on two, because I only have to set up two things separately, really, for this. So, and Restream does the rest, and I think once it gets its feet under it with Rumble, it'll go back to being like streaming on one platform. So that makes things easy for me. So I've been rescued by whatever Prince Charming developed, or whatever Prince Charming
API
developed Restream.
The API.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's probably some female developers involved there too, because that's something women have been involved in from the beginning, has been programming and stuff. So there we go. But to get started, I have a brief description of the show. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who has the most fragile sensibilities of all? The answer is simple, though often unseen. The gynocentric outrage machine. It huffs and puffs and blows big clouds of smoke on behalf of fair maidens assailed with rude jokes, dispatching Prince Charming to prove his worth, while Milady struggles to cover her mirth. Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 218, a joke, a slap, a slip of the mask. Let's talk female privilege. I'm your host, Hannah Wallen, here with Nonsense Annihilator Lauren B., and she who must be obeyed, Karen Strawn, to strip the to strip the ball gown. I probably should not have written that way.
To bodice rip the ball gown.
Yeah.
To bodice rip the ball gown.
So this is a play on last week. Last week I said we were stripping the paint off of a badly covered hole in the logic of feminist dogma. And I rewrote it with to strip the ball gown off of a badly covered hole in the logic of feminist dogma, but probably
no. I like that analogy, but I would have gone farther to rip the bodice.
Yes, to rip the bodice.
Yeah,
off the badly covered bosom.
At least then you get to see boobs.
Yeah, that's true. The boobs are definitely always more attractive than the hole. But there is quite a massive hole in the logic of feminist dogma in regard to female entitlement and female privilege, and we are going to stick our finger in it.
Did you make a hole and finger joke?
Yes, I did.
Shame on you, Hannah.
Of course. I wear it every day. I have the shame of being an anti-feminist pick-me after all.
You know what? I think I'm going to
Rapunzel.
design a T-shirt that just says shame.
Yeah.
With an arrow pointed upwards.
You know what it should say? Should have a obvious angry feminist punk hitting somebody over the head with the female symbol. And there we go. There's your cartoon. Shame. But before we get any further into this, we got to do what we got to do. And
okay,
everybody,
Kevin, you need to stop. Kevin, you need to stop.
Haha. But what we're about to do has been highlighted as very important last week. I think I discussed this when we talked about Sydney Watson's experience with Patreon. But this is getting more important every day. This is something that we really are on borrowed time with ourselves. We're just small enough or careful enough or whatever to not get noticed and booted so far. But it'll eventually happen. So, as always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, And as experiences both recent and long past have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com. That's the most stable way to help us out. If you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platform's tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Do not slash the tip. But
just
the tip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content, as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. And as always, remember folks, information is power, we have it, they hate it, and if you want it, you gotta go to honeybadgerbrigade.com and check out the latest feed from the Badgers, and feed the Badger to help make it possible for us to share the news and analysis you come to HBR to hear. So, here we are, stuck between two displays of female entitlement, one about removing the character growth and development part of a story when the protagonist is a woman, and the other about defending Milady's feelings, even when they don't appear to be wounded. Whatever shall we do? Who can save us from this terrible trap?
Well, I don't know, but can I just say that the G.I. Jane joke was actually pretty tame?
It was, I would call it complimentary because you couldn't play G.I. Jane unless you were buff. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, no, I was just like, and the correct thing to do would have been for Will Smith to say, "Oh, you just all jealous of my wife's abs."
Yeah. Yup.
Yeah.
In fact, she could have done that. Like I was joking
You're
around before the show.
You're just jealous of my abs. Yeah.
She should have been. She should have been voguing. Like the making muscles and yeah.
Yeah. No, but what she has. Like she's been talking about her alopecia for a while, right?
Right.
And she's just been like, no, I'm going to wear my bald head proudly, right? And without shame. And it's like, and then somebody makes a crack about your bald head and you crumple.
Yep. Well, something Brian that pointed out, or something that Brian pointed out actually on HBR News is, they've been pretty open publicly, or rather she has been pretty open publicly about them being in an open relationship, being kind of like swingers, right?
Oh, you know that's not his decision. You can tell.
Exactly. Well,
yeah,
that's
you can tell.
My thinking on the subject is he was not offended at the bald joke. He was offended at the words "love you," because like when you're in an open relationship, it's even more important for a wife to show her loyalty. I don't think that it was love you. I think he looked over at his wife because she looked really offended, right? Like really annoyed by the joke, and I think he just went off. It was like he was being a white knight, a simp, and a cuck at the same time, and he went up and basically committed career suicide to prove to a woman who I think is in an open relationship, but I don't think he is. I don't know that he is, and you can tell when you can tell from the look on his face when he talks about it publicly. It's like he knows that she's the one who's wearing the pants in the relationship, and I don't know why, because the role for which she has the most notoriety is the fat, sassy hippo in Madagascar. Yeah. Honestly,
right? So,
I don't know.
And his last movie was like $40 million. That was a $40 million paycheck.
I will say this. Even if they were both okay with it, the thing that happens in open relationships, right, is, and this is pretty much universal, in terms of opportunity and interest shown by other people, she's going to get 10 times as much. He can be the richest guy in Hollywood, and she's still going to get 10 times as many guys trying to get into her pants. She's going to have 10 times as much interest, right? So what ends up happening with these relationships is if the woman is not very...
It gives the woman the upper hand in the relationship.
If the woman is not very careful to make sure that her guy knows he's her number one guy, and everybody else knows he's her number one guy, and he knows that there are certain people who are off limits, like friends and friends of family members, people that are already close to them. That ends up damaging the relationship, damaging the trust, damaging the guy's self-esteem and everything. And it is definitely something that would contribute to stresses and strains on the relationship. And it just, to me, I just cannot see, I can't see a guy getting that pissed off over a joke without something like that behind it. And
guaranteed there's something, like, their marriage has been in trouble for like the last 4 years, and he's allowed her to step outside the relationship because that's the only way to keep her. And I think he feels he needs to keep her because she's probably told him that if you leave me, I'm going to pull an Angelina Jolie, right? And you're not going to see your kids again. And so, I mean, like, she's just got the upper hand, and he knows it. And it's like he saw that the look on her face was the look on the face of a king right before he orders his sergeant at arms to kill his court jester.
Right. And he acted like the sergeant at arms.
Yeah.
And and that's essentially, here's a guy who is like, how do I keep my wife happy? How do I keep my wife close to me? And how do I look like the good husband? And he's not just defending against her hurt feelings. He's defending against all of it.
And the tragic thing is it diminishes all of them, because she looks like a petulant, weak woman who couldn't take a joke.
Right.
And even though she said that she wears her bald head, right, with pride because she's not ashamed of it. Okay, so she's a strong, bald woman who can't take a G.I. Jane joke. It diminished Will Smith because he actually, honestly, he acted he was completely out of control.
Yeah.
And even lefty actors in Hollywood like Jim Carrey are just like, yeah, no, that was really not okay. And then Chris Rock, right? Like, this is why I don't believe it was staged, right? And a lot of people were like, oh, the whole thing was staged. No, because it didn't help anyone's career. Chris Rock was emasculated. And you know why he was emasculated? Because it was an open-handed slap. And that's the way a man hits a woman or a child.
True. And that was a situation I do have some sympathy for him about, in terms of position that he was put in as well, not just being emasculated, because like he didn't do anything wrong. He was attacked for it. But then on top of that, the position he was in, I've been in this position. You get attacked by somebody when the worst thing you can do is retaliate. Escalate. And there you are, and you look like, you look like somebody who couldn't retaliate no matter what you do.
His recovery was really good for an on-the-fly recovery. But I could, if it was staged, I could think of like 10 better jokes that he could have made after that. But yeah, no, it's like now these are all people who have to really be aware of their public image. They have to be like seriously concerned with their public image, particularly Will Smith.
Yeah.
Because Chris Rock has always kind of been a mid-list. He's sort of hovers between A and B list celebrity. But Will Smith is the one who is like, he's top tier. He's like top 10 of all the highest paid actors in Hollywood. And I think he seriously hurt his likability rating at this point, even despite, a lot of Hollywood personalities defending him and stuff. And his he apologized to the Academy that night. Oh, and apparently security at the show
asked him to leave. Yeah,
asked him to leave. He refused, and they didn't force it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they didn't want to make more of a scene.
Yeah.
And that just shows you, like, he's an entitled, petulant, mentally unstable, narcissistic freaking asshole. And his wife has to know that.
Yeah.
And she has to have realized that if she didn't take the joke in good humor, and she gave him a look, and we don't see the look she gave Will Smith before he walked up on stage. He started laughing, and then she gave him that look, like, how dare you laugh at that joke that was made at my expense? I can guarantee you that was the look she gave him. And then up he went to frickin' deck the guy who made the joke. And I'm just like, really, this is...
she initially laughed at that joke, too. I saw that video as well, and she laughed. Then before she got offended, she laughed. Then she had second thoughts. So this is, like, everybody involved recognized that the joke was funny. It's just, there's a level of entitlement. A few years ago, actually several years ago now, I guess, I made a video criticizing the feminist narrative on enthusiastic consent for being nonsensical and placing a double standard between the male and female participant in a heterosexual act. Basically it screws everything up. And the video, I had several points that I made in the video regarding the danger that it presents to men in consensual sex acts where they become vulnerable to a false allegation if the woman changes her mind. And then I made several points in regard to how this screws things up for women if they're the type that likes to be shy and coy and be seduced and stuff like that, because a guy can't do that under the enthusiastic consent narrative. Everything has to be blunt and open, and you can't be coy. You have to be very communicative. And so you're pretty much, you are not fucked because he cannot fuck you if you're coy, right? That's basically the gist of the whole thing. And what you're demanding of a guy when you exhibit a right to be coy is that you're demanding he risk a rape allegation just to be with you. And that was it, but it was a lot longer than that. Somebody posted it to Reddit's Our Videos subreddit. In fact, it's the reason why political videos are no longer allowed on that subreddit, because somebody was offended. And several people who were offended on behalf of women, on behalf of the women's, came in not to say anything about the contents of the video, argue the points, nothing like that. Nope, they all had things to say about my teeth. There was no...
that's
nothing,
the only thing that matters, right?
Right.
It's like every time I see that kind of thing, because
let me finish this because it's something that it's really important, a really important point on my part. I read all those comments about my teeth, and I'm like, I won. I beat all of those competitors, all of those contenders, because they didn't argue with the damn thing I said. All they did was come in and make themselves look petty and rude. And they threw attacks that really have no effect on me because I know my teeth are bad. I already knew my teeth were bad. Like, I don't like the way they are, but they're bad because of genetics. They're not bad because there's something I can do about it. So I'm not going to take on any burden because somebody has said nasty things about my teeth. And I said that actually on a few episodes of different HBR shows and everything. Well, then along comes, I think you remember God Evolves.
The guy who got me kicked off of Twitter.
Of Twitter, right. One of his main attacks was calling me meth teeth. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, this was, and again, I don't care what he says about my teeth. They're not his teeth. He doesn't really have, and no, you don't need to see my teeth are in the kind of shape that gets dentists to actually yell at you and wonder how you're able to eat. Like, more than half of them are broken. I have holes in my jawline, like along the teeth and everything. There's exposed nerves, but and I'm not getting them fixed until I can get them all pulled out, because part of the cause is the stuff they use for fillings will not stay attached to my teeth. It comes out, and then they blame me. So it's So it's not. And before you're like, oh, that's so terrible, it doesn't bother me. I know it's a thing I deal with, right? But if somebody came along and made a joke about it, people are going to make jokes about it because it looks pretty awful. I'm not going to care because it's not something that I'm responsible for. I didn't do this to myself. It's just a thing that I deal with, right? So there's no point in getting mad about it because they're not taking a dig at me. They think they are, but they're not taking a dig at me. Well, her situation is very similar. Her condition is genetic too, I think. If I understand what I've read about this, it's a disorder that she has no responsibility for this disorder. It's not something that like your diet causes.
It's a random thing,
right?
yeah.
You don't catch it from behaviors or nothing. So there shouldn't be any emotional attachment to it. There's nothing to be sensitive about. If somebody takes a dig at it, she might be getting razzed, but at the same time, he didn't even, like, the people that razzed me about my teeth were portraying me as ugly for it. She's not even being called ugly. She's just being highlighted as having a bald head and a buff shape, which she kind of does. And
she does.
So
I went and I looked, and her abs are like, she's got a six-pack.
Right. So
and that's hard for a man to maintain. So
I look at my reaction versus her reaction, and I felt like I won. I win every time somebody ignores my points and says, "Oh my God, your teeth!" She lost because she let that get to her. She has a 6-pack of abs, right? And I have a beer gut, even though I don't even drink beer anymore. But I won, and she lost. I'm stronger than she is.
This is why it drives me crazy, because a lot of commenters, they ignore even the ones who disagree with the people that I disagree with, right? Ron Perlman put out the stupidest frickin' video recently. And there were a bunch of comments about how ugly he is. And it's like, well, and why his face is asymmetrical, but at least he could fix his teeth. And it's like, yeah, why would he do that when that is basically what he sells himself on? He sells himself on being the unattractive, kind of scary looking man. That's why he played Hellboy. That's why he played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast TV series. That's why he was in Alien 4. That's why he's been in all of the movies that he's been in, is because he has a very specific look. And if he just goes and gets a bunch of freaking chiclets installed in his lower jaw to make him look normal, it's going to completely ruin his look. It's like if Barbara Streisand decided to get a nose job and get herself a Jennifer Aniston nose, no, she's not going to do that.
It would change your voice. That would be
It would
bad.
change her voice, yeah. And and it would change her saleability.
Yeah.
Right? So, and it's the same thing with Ron Perlman, but it's like every time I see somebody launching an attack like that against somebody that I vehemently disagree with, I'm just like, okay, can we just actually stick to what they said and how retarded it was? Because all you're doing is making yourself look like you have nothing to say about what they said.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And with this situation, here you have this smack, and now this is like pretty much on Smith's reputation. People will it's such a minor incident and such a major incident, right? It's one guy walks up to another guy and throws one swing, but it was in such a public place, and it was in such a wrong place to have a conflict, and what a wrong situation to have a conflict. Like,
well, you could see Chris Rock was like, he was going, uh-oh, but he was leaning in because he thought maybe Will Smith would have maybe shake his hand, whisper in his ear, take it easy on my wife.
Well, the thing is, like, he's in the middle of a performance, and a guy walks up on the stage. Like, that's bizarre.
I know. And this is why one of the best lines to follow that up with, if it had been staged, was like, now that was some next level heckling.
Yeah, although he did say something about it being the greatest night on television, and to be honest, like he did. He handled it excellently. He handled it the best way he possibly could, and like that was good. But with that situation,
he did really well, but he didn't do as well as he could have if it was all scripted in advance.
Right. No, and if they were going to script something like that, it would not have been it wouldn't have been a moment like that where there'd be people talking about how you have to follow up on it. And that is the situation. People are talking about, like, obviously it's very, very generous of Chris Rock to not press charges against Will Smith for this. But the Academy still has the capability of inflicting consequences. They can say, you're out. They can, and like, there's all kinds of things that can happen, and people are calling for it.
The cops have the ability to press charges.
Yeah.
Without Chris Rock's consent or instigation. Chris Rock doesn't have to press charges. It would
be a really stupid thing to stage something that can lead to those kind of consequences.
Unless you could all like laugh about it afterwards and go, yeah, it was staged.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like if next year Mike Tyson comes out and he's like, I'm hosting the Oscars tonight. And if anybody has a problem with any of my jokes, you feel free to come up on stage and we'll have some words.
Yeah. They could play something off of it.
But, they could do that. That would be like if they actually got Mike Tyson to host the Oscars next year, it might actually be the most watched freaking Oscars ever.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was telling Lauren before the show. I didn't even know the Oscars were going on until this happened, because I hadn't cared about it. The last time I watched the Oscars, Robin Williams was singing a song from South Park. That was why I watched.
Wow.
Nobody cares. But you could if it was a scripted moment, right? Then okay, so. And somewhere out there, Ricky Gervais is 3 beers in his underpants in front of a TV, laughing his ass off.
Yeah.
Right? Like there were so many lines but you looked at Chris Rock. He was just like, when Will Smith started yelling, "Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth," right? He was just like, yeah, no, I will. Okay, I will. Right?
Yeah,
that was somebody who was just like, because he knew if he said one more word and you could see his brain working, what can I say to recover from this that isn't going to piss that guy off again?
Yeah. And I mean, he was dealing with a couple of different things. He wanted to salvage the show, obviously. But he also, I mean, Will Smith is a great deal larger than him. And he would be faced with a situation when somebody that much bigger than you attacks you. You don't get a choice to not defend yourself the whole time, right? He could choose to not defend himself against the slap because it was just a slap. But if Smith had completely lost it and just gone ballistic on him, then Rock would be in a situation where he would have to either take a beating or defend himself.
He'd have to rely
it's a very
on
awkward position to be in, and it's also a very dangerous situation to be in because
he'd have to rely on his cousin to come to his rescue.
come to his rescue. Yeah, there you go. But he, you don't know with these guys. I'm sure a lot of them have taken self-defense and stuff like that. I would if I was that famous. I would not assume that, like, men especially would not assume that they're going to be safe all the time when everybody knows who they are, and there's been a long history of people who are Hollywood famous finding stalkers in the world who take a great deal of interest in them, and a very unhealthy interest at that. So obviously, you can't assume size is the only factor in that fight, but you're still at a disadvantage if the other guy that's hitting you outweighs you, because force equals mass times acceleration, and the bigger guy has the advantage of mass, and so you're
bigger
looking
guy,
at a situation,
longer arms,
right?
Yeah,
and he has reach as well. That's true,
yeah.
So it's a situation where you never know. He could have been calculating all kinds of things. He could have been calculating, how do I stop him from beating the crap out of me in public?
He was calculating that. Yeah.
He could have been calculating, how do I avoid having to hit back?
How do I avoid destroying the entire show?
Yeah. How do I avoid showing what I look like when I'm actually violent? How do I save the show? Yeah. But the thing that really struck me out of all of this, I've been reading a few little things about it here and there, and Chris Rock apologized too. You know who he apologized to? He didn't have to. He didn't feel like
Jada.
Nope, he didn't apologize to Jada.
Good.
He didn't. To my knowledge, he didn't apologize to Jada. Didn't apologize to the Academy. Obviously, he didn't apologize to Will Smith. Will Smith apologized to him, and he should have, because you don't walk up and hit people over a joke. But nope, he apologized to the women who were his co-hosts.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Because it was supposed to be their moment co-hosting the show, and now this is the thing the show is all going to be about.
Oh, good, because the women co-hosting the show were all about Oscar's so white.
Yeah.
Oscar's so white, even though for the last 40 years, 13% of the Oscars have gone to blacks.
Yep. But I mean, honestly, that was his response. He should not have felt the need to apologize to anybody, because nothing that happened was really his fault. Like,
at all.
He's known for that kind of joke. Can you imagine, by the way, if Jada Pinkett Smith had to deal with being roasted by Richard Pryor instead of Chris Rock? Like, the woman would have been nothing but a pile of ash sitting in that chair by the time Pryor got done with her.
Or
that
by
would have
Lisa
been
Lampanelli.
But yeah, no, today's humor is very mild. Like, the joke that Chris Rock made is pretty mild compared to what is out there.
Oh God, like
that. But in any case, yeah, he felt the need to apologize to those women who were the co-hosts,
because he stole the show.
Yeah, and it was
by being assaulted.
and it's all about them, right? It's not about the people getting the awards.
Yeah.
No, it's all about those hosts, because the Oscars were hosted by women.
But what the craziest thing is if that slap never happened, nobody would have cared about the Oscars any goddamn way. So why are you apologizing? This was supposed to be their moment in the sun. Really? Shut the hell up. Because what the fuck are you? You're not performing. The only thing you're doing is presenting a goddamn award to another rich motherfucker. Like, really? These people are so goddamn out of touch. Who even watches this shit anymore?
Well,
I don't.
I think a lot of people don't even have TV anymore, and and like we haven't had TV for about 8 years. Haven't had cable TV, so like, because we just we realized after about 6 months that we'd only watched TV once. And it was an Oilers game.
Yep. Well, you know, there are two things that my husband and I, when we got our house together, we never actually had installed. One of them is a phone line. We've never had a landline turned on, basically. Like all the places that we've lived have had the phone jacks for a landline, and you can plug in a phone and dial 911 from those phone jacks, and that'll go through. So that's the only reason we would have wanted a landline if you had to have it for that, and you don't. So we never have had a landline. And the other one is we've never had any kind of cable, digital, any kind of television service where like you pay for it and you get channels. We've never paid for any television channels. We've never used it, and we've never missed it because we've always just looked at, you know, whatever's online. A lot of places have all of their content on their website, and you know, a lot of other streaming services online are better. You can get what you want and not what you don't want, and your fee is much smaller. And then there's obviously a lot of free stuff online too. So what's the point of paying for any of those services and paying for any of those channels? Like, there isn't really.
Yeah, no, and when we watched Star Trek Discovery, me and my husband, the thing that we complain about is, oh my fucking God, another drug company commercial.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that. It's, oh my fucking God, it's a crisis. Your ship's about to explode. Why are you crying and hugging?
Yep.
And expressing your long buried feelings about each other. Why? Why are you doing that? Jesus, fuck. Right? You're like, oh, we might die. Here, let me take 3.5 minutes to tell you how I've always felt about you. Right? Yeah, now you're gonna die. Or I wish you would, because you should. You should die. If that's what you do, when your shields are down to 10%, the warp core is breached, and you're about to explode, and you're like sitting there having a girly moment.
Yeah.
You know, like, and hugging. Oh, Tilly, I was always confident in you. And, you know, here, let's make eye contact while I cry artfully. Because I'm Michael Burnham, and I'm super strong but super sensitive at the same time. Oh my fucking God!
What does this have to do with female privilege?
We're still watching it because some aspects of the plot are interesting. But I tell you what, I fucking burst into a swearing fit 3 times every show when they pull this shit. And it's because they have fucking female writers who don't know shit, right? About how if you want to emote and slobber all over each other, you do it after the crisis has been averted, not during the freaking high tension moment. Jesus, fuck.
So
none of these fucking women writers have ever had to save a life. I can guarantee you that, because I've had to do that, and, you know, that was not my first impulse.
Essentially, then it's
Duncan
it's
and Jack, I've always really loved you, and I
it's
just
female
wanted to let you know.
It's female written fan fiction, in other words. It's not.
Oh
real.
God, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It like these though, like some of it's really good, but those moments are absolutely atrocious. They're like so bad, and then they have like the no, I'm a they them, and I'm like, really, we're gonna do this. She's a they them. She's obviously a she, but no, she's a they them. Okay, all right. We're doing this now.
So, back to the topic, though.
All right.
You know, we've pretty much kind of talked the slap itself to death. The point that I wanted to make in bringing it into this particular episode, along with the cartoon, is none of this would have happened if it had been Jade Smith and Wilhelmina Pinkett Smith, right? So Jade Smith is bald. Wilhelmina Pinkett Smith is sitting there next to him, and a comedian on the stage makes a joke referencing his baldness, right?
Never would have happened.
Right, everybody laughs, and the whole thing moves on, and not one person gets into any kind of trouble, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I can kind of see it, particularly among women, right? Hair is, because it is rare to lose your hair. It's not common, right? And so it's rare to lose your hair. And then on top of that, for black women, black women often put a lot of effort into their hair. And
a multi-billion-dollar industry in the black community is weaves and shit like that.
But the thing is, even that doesn't justify the gender difference there. I mean, if it was, fat, all right. Jade Smith is fat, and Wilhelmina Pinkett Smith is sitting next to fat Jade Smith, who used to be real buff, and the comedian makes a joke about the beer gut and being out of shape and all that kind of stuff. And it turns out that it's because of a disease or a glandular condition or something like that.
Thyroid
shit. Right. There still would not be a defense, any kind of a defense of this. There still would not be any kind of sympathy for, the experience that Jade Smith has being the butt of this joke. It would be, in fact, you're oversensitive if you're making a big deal out of this.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, like, let's say you have this joke happen, and Will Smith doesn't respond at all, right? You can see that Jada Pinkett Smith went from laughing to, like, a second later she's mad, and you can see that she's mad, and she's been talking about her alopecia, and the women of social media are mad because he didn't stand up for his wife now because of this joke, right? Female Twitter would have dragged him for a week.
Okay,
right? Female
Kevin,
Twitter
you need to stop.
would have just absolutely gone ballistic because he didn't defend his wife's honor, he didn't defend his wife's sensibilities, right? Reverse the sexes, and if he had gotten up, if Wilhelmina Smith had gotten up and punched somebody or slapped somebody for calling her husband unattractive, or even blatantly, bluntly making a big deal about it, or anything, nobody would have said, "Oh, you overreacted." She would have been praised as a strong defender of her poor husband.
I don't think so. I think he would have
been treated like she wouldn't have been treated like somebody who got up and just went overboard. But at the same time, if she sat there and did nothing, she wouldn't have been treated. She would have had nothing she could have done wrong in that situation.
Like she would not have been. She might have been seen as a woman who lost her temper. Mm-hmm. Okay. But
everybody would have been talking about how understandable it was, because obviously when your husband's under attack, you have to, But truth is you don't.
Obviously, the only reason she did it was because he's a weak man who can't take a joke.
Yeah, he would have been criticized, but she would not. Yeah. She would not have been criticized. No. And the truth of what Chris Rock did was he gave Jada Pinkett Smith gender equal treatment. He did not treat her differently than he would have treated a male target, right? Everybody is the butt of your jokes when you're roasting people on stage. So if you eliminate the gender expectations, right? You eliminate the gender-based expectations of deference and defense in social situations. This incident doesn't happen. Right? Will Smith is expected to defend his wife. Wilhelmina Smith wouldn't be expected. But it'd be okay if she did, right? And that it doesn't excuse his response. Like, there are social pressures he faces, that partly influenced the response, but it was still overboard. Yeah. You know, like there's obviously the social pressure to defend his wife, the fact that his wife would pressure him with her behavior. She's going to have expectations on him. The fact that if he'd have just sat back and not said anything, and there would have been, that same video of her face dropping afterwards, that female Twitter would have been like, oh, and he did nothing. He just sat there and laughed when his wife was being, he didn't even put his arm around her or whatever.
Insulted, yeah.
So the whole thing is 100% a gender issue. It's about female entitlement and male disposability. Because we are looking at a situation where a man's reputation can be sacrificed under the wheels of the carriage that her privilege as a woman rides in.
Yeah.
Her reputation cannot get dirty, even by association with the idea that she's not perfect in her looks.
Agreed. Okay, can you dogs stop? Have you guys been able to hear my idiot Kevin howling?
Yes. Obviously, Kevin is deeply offended at the... So where's the ambulance? Is it really far away, or is it...
No. She refused to go pee when I let her out at the beginning of the show while the video was playing. and now she's changed her mind.
Female privilege, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to have you take time for me when you're not busy doing something else. You need to take your time for me when you're busy with something else. You need to take time away from that for me.
No, and I already gave her, like, our routine is she comes up before dinner. I fill the dog bowls and everything. I bring her up. I let her out. She does her thing. Then she eats. But we just got this new food. And she really, really likes it. And she's just like, nope, I'm not going to pee. I'm just going to eat the food. So there I am. I'm like, oh my fucking, I just need you to go out and pee, and then I can leave you alone. And no, she's like, no, I got to eat the whole bowl. And then I let her out while the video's playing, the intro video. And she's just like, oh, but like the snow's melted and there's just so many interesting things to sniff, right? Like, and so I just can't find a spot because they're all just too interesting. How can I choose just one?
Not to mention there's probably not pee on anything that isn't hers, so therefore she has nothing to mark over. Because there you go.
No, she does. She's got all of Borat's pee to mark over.
Oh, yeah, she should be marking over that.
Yeah, no, but apparently his pee is not very, it's not very assertive.
Not offensive. There you go.
Yeah. So
the other thing that I had brought up in the opener was that cartoon. I'm going to put that up on the screen. There's a link to it.
You know what I find interesting about that cartoon?
Yeah.
Is she's not asking mommy to skip ahead to the part where she climbs the corporate ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
She's asking daddy.
She's asking daddy. Yeah. Now, I don't know why I have lost my freaking cursor. I can't see a damn thing. Why? Like, my cursor just is gone. Alright, let's... Now, do I get it back? Yes, I get it back. Oh my gosh, that's so stupid. Alright, so let's try this again. Obviously, the problem was I'm not allowed to actually move the page while I'm looking at this cartoon. So let's go back into my history, find the tweet, which it's an archive. There we go. If I got the right thing. Well, this is not the archive. Oh no, this is the archive. For a minute I thought he unblocked me, but this is the archive. So this is I believe his name is pronounced Wayant, Christopher Wayant, and he is he's not just a cartoonist, he's an actual New Yorker cartoonist. Like, his stuff is in the New Yorker regularly. He's syndicated. So here's the cartoon. I'm having to scroll up and down to show you, but you can see just a normal looking cartoon of a kid in a bedroom, and here's the dad sitting in a chair by the bed with the book open and everything. And the caption, skip to the part where the princess climbs to the top of the corporate ladder. And, of course, his tweet, when he tweets it out, is, yes, let's. Hashtag International Women's Day, hashtag equal pay day, hashtag equality, hashtag feminism, hashtag equal rights. And then, of course, the professional ones. So, the thing that really bugged me about this, right? If you're looking at a story of an epic journey, and there's, the book has, like, the castle on the back and so on. Where does the princess start out? I put her in an ivory tower, but really, where does the princess start out?
Well, it really depends on the story, but you know where the protagonist generally starts out in a lot of these stories about climbing or overcoming something is they start out in rough circumstances or you're either a Harry Potter or a Frodo Baggins, right? Like you're just kind of an ordinary person who ends up having to do extraordinary things through all kinds of difficulty and strife. And why would anybody want to read about Frodo Baggins? Gandalf visits him and says, like you have to go take the ring, keep it safe, and then you just like fast forward to when the Eagles pick him up off the freaking slopes of Mount Doom.
Yeah,
and you just skip all the bits in the middle.
Yeah, that's basically what this cartoon does. When you think about it, anybody's epic journey, any story about an individual who does something great has to get that person through the challenges that build their strength and character to where they're able to confront the bigger monster, the bigger demon, the harder conflict. Win the hearts and minds of the people of their kingdom or whatever. But a princess starts out in a castle.
Yeah.
Right? A princess starts out in a position of privilege already. And the thing that struck me about this cartoon is this is exactly the position that women are in already. Right? We have all of these programs, we have all of these incentives for companies to hire women, promote women, train women for different positions, pay women more money. We are given a leg up over every hurdle between starting to work for the company and hitting CEO status. We even have scholarships for the education that we need that don't necessarily come from the company, that are just for women. We have all kinds of programs, and yet we're still skipping to the part. And the thing that bugged me about the cartoon, not just, like I said, why would a princess need to climb when she's already above the entire system, right? But even if the princess, which is women in general, it's obviously this is a cartoon about women in general, even if the princess wasn't above the entire system. Let's say I come out of my parents' family, right, where my parents are school teachers, they were never rich, and I go to school, and I want to be the top of the corporate ladder, right? To take me through that process and get me from high school kid to highest point of corporate responsibility, I should go through the same things that a man would go through, because every step of that pathway contributes to his capability of fulfilling his responsibilities when he gets to the end of it. Right? He's not just going through all of that because society is mean. He's going through all of that because society has to sort out who can handle the job from who can't handle the job. And in the process of going through that, people who start out not ready to handle the job become ready to handle the job.
Well,
but being
not
female,
always,
I'm just supposed
but
to walk into it, right? And
yeah,
there are
no,
people who fall by the wayside and don't become ready to handle the job, and there are people that get into that job when they're not ready to handle it.
Yeah, or not even remotely qualified.
Right.
Hunter Biden.
Right. But they fail, and when that happens, it usually does have something to do with some level of privilege. Like Hunter Biden had
upward, yeah.
Yeah, Hunter Biden wasn't just some guy, right?
Oh,
he was
I know.
the son of the vice president of the United States at the time.
Well, I'm just listening to my. Okay, can you stop it, Kevin? You got no cause to complain. You're the one who refused to pee. Oh my God. Oh Jesus. Anyway, yeah, no, but she's part pit bull. That's how the talking is how you can tell.
Yeah.
But
is she part husky?
Yeah, no.
Well, you're lucky then, because she would never shut up.
Yeah, but no, the like what my husband talks about at his work, right? And it's pretty evenly split between men and women. They're just people who are just in positions that they aren't actually capable of doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you know, this is in a highly technical field, and if it's half men and half women who are incompetent, right? Like pretty much a 50-50 split of the, out of the 10 people or whatever who are incompetent, if half of them are women, you know that they were diversity hires, because there's only about 15% of the applications to any of these jobs are from women, right? So at most,
right?
So and he's constant, like, I mean, he's stuck in a situation where, or in a field where either the employer exploits the worker, like absolutely 100% exploits the worker through contract work, or you land a union job and the employees are exploiting the company, and they're just free riding, right? And but no matter what situation it is, women tend to fare much better than men, just when you average it out.
Yep.
Because it's a situation in which women are they're underrepresented, but then you have situations like dental hygienist and massage therapist and nurse, right? And any profession where the worker has to be up in some stranger's junk, right? Their mouth, or their personal space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people across the board unashamedly say, yeah, no, I would prefer a woman to do that. I would prefer a woman to give me a sponge bath at a hospital. I would prefer a woman to, work in my mouth while I'm lying prone on a dentist chair, right? I would prefer a woman to massage me while I'm half naked on a table, right? I would prefer a woman to do those things. And so, and I'm thinking, well, those are already heavily female-dominated industries. Good luck if you're a man trying to become a nurse or a dental hygienist or a massage therapist. And you can become a nurse as a man, but most male nurses climb the ladder, and they don't climb the ladder to get to the top. They climb the ladder because the bottom is not pleasant for them.
Right. In fact, male nurses are the ones that are more likely to be called from their floor to another floor to do heavy lifting. They're more likely to be the one dealing with a patient who is combative. They're more likely to be the one dealing with a patient who is messy, right?
Yeah.
The female nurses will sort of be unavailable when a patient needs a particular level of cleanup.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that there's certain work that nurses are going to do, whether they're male or female. If you have an emergency, like my dad had that kind of an emergency when he was in the hospital this last time, where he had an issue, a medical issue that led to severe bleeding, and it was a female that came in and saved him, called him in. They brought in the crash cart and everything, but it was the men who did the heavy lifting, turning him, keeping him calm, keeping him, so that when you have a moment like that, your panic leads to thrashing that can get in the way of the people that are trying to help you.
Oh yeah.
And it was the men that prevented that as well. And I mean, my dad was a big guy. He was 6'1", and he played football when he was young. He worked clear up until COVID hit as a photographer, and his arm strength was great enough at his age and his condition that he really surprised everybody in what he could do. And some of those gals that came in to help him were up to my elbow, and I probably could have picked him up and carried him down the stairs myself. And so I mean, that's why a lot of the times it's the guys that have that unpleasant part of the job where you're the one holding somebody's hand so that they don't, in their panic, accidentally shove the people that are trying to help them away from the bleeding that needs to be stopped and stuff like that. But, that's
and if it's not a nurse, it's going to be an orderly,
right?
So you're looking at a situation where the female-dominated fields are extremely hostile to men, right? Same with elementary school and things like that, right? Like male teachers. Well, parents just don't feel comfortable, right, with their children having a male teacher, right? That just seems weird. And like, why would he want to go into elementary school teaching if he didn't want to sexually abuse my child, right? This is like literally people are allowed to voice their concerns about a male elementary school teacher, right? And give him the stink eye simply because he's male. And what the hell is he doing there, right? So you want to talk a hostile workforce, right? You look at these situations where 27% of people who graduate with STEM degrees are women, and 25% of people employed in STEM fields are women, right? And you're going to call that, and that must mean there's like so much discrimination. Meanwhile, you got people openly expressing that they wouldn't get a massage from a man. They wouldn't feel comfortable with getting a gynecological exam from a male doctor without a woman in the room, right? They don't feel comfortable with their elementary school kids being taught by a man, right? They don't feel comfortable, right, with going to the dentist's office and not having a female hygienist. Maybe the dentist can be male because he's the one he just comes in and he drills a bit, right? But the hygienist is the one who does the cleanings and the other stuff, and so I'm just looking at it and I'm going, and as long as there's a woman in the room, I'm okay, right? And this is both men and women who feel
in fact,
this way.
My husband got certified as a licensed massage therapist, and it was one of those, men didn't want another man to be hands-on with them. And women treated him like being hands-on, which a massage therapist does, right, was something weird. Even though his job was, all right, you have pain and injury from some sort of sprain or strain, I'm going to help you work on that pain. And he went into it to help relieve people's pain. And he ended up working as a on a line in a plastics manufacturing plant for years instead, because people do not go to men for massage therapy.
Yeah, no,
the
unless
few people
unless
who
the man
did, the few people who
unless the man
did cite the fact that he was, superior in
really
what
good,
he
yeah.
did, but the people who didn't, who never got a chance to find that out, were
Yeah.
just put off by the fact that he was male.
Yeah, no, and unless, like honestly, I think every male massage therapist should walk into the room, and if it's a woman there, he should yell, "Rape or no raping," right?
Yeah,
And then if it's a man, he should yell, "No homo,"
there you go.
right?
And
Because it's like that's basically what the situation is. That's what the women are worried about. They're worried about being sexually assaulted, and the men are worried about being sexually assaulted. And so there you go.
yeah, and on the other hand, a woman who isn't even all that good at the job can have a large clientele if she is simply personable and cute. And
Yeah.
my problem with this is, like, when I went in for massage therapy, I went in because I really needed physical therapy, and not just somebody to be, an emotional balm on my stressed out nerves because I was unhappy or something. Like, I had actual physical knots in my muscles from, when I say knots, it's areas where the muscle cells have just clenched and they won't let go, like they won't relax. And it does take massage, and sometimes deep tissue massage, to get those to relax. And you get exercises to do, and you get the massage technique done on you and everything. And it takes a lot of physical strength to work on me, where in between my shoulder blades where that happens. And my husband could do it, and maybe a big strong woman could do it. But when you get these little skinny girls who just want to do, there's light touch massage that a lot of people like if they're in there because they're stressed out. But I can't handle that. It's like being tickled, and it really actually makes things worse. And so I couldn't go to them. But it's harder to find somebody with very serious muscle that's really going to actually work on you like they've got jackhammers for hands, and but with more finesse, right? And unfortunately, that's kind of pushed out of massage therapy. So people like me, with a need for having their muscles really worked on, worked on really hard, don't have as many options because people are prejudiced against people who can do that, which is mostly men. And it's kind of sad for people in who need pain care. I'm spoiled because my husband, even though he didn't do it professionally all that time, was at home with me and worked on me as I was as needed. And so I still got the help I needed because I had him right there. But a lot of people don't, because they don't treat men like they're as safe to be around and as safe to be close to as women. And it's kind of interesting that people have that prejudice, considering that women can be creepier and more predatory than men. And you look at the big list of like 500 Canadian teachers, for instance, that have molested their students. And it is like 500 female teachers on that list. I think there might be maybe one or two male teachers on that list, but it's mostly female. And it's mostly boys that are victims, and it's mostly younger, not like the teacher is with somebody that's 18, but it's a crime because he's a student, but 12 and 13-year-olds, 11-year-olds. So it's really creepy. And yet, who gets treated like that's what they are? Is the men, not the women. Their neoteny and their presumed harmlessness It leads people to just accept they're not going to do anything wrong. They're not going to hurt anybody, even though they are. Shoot. I just think I just lost all the super chats, guys. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I was going to be really upset there for a minute. I'm like, I haven't even read these yet. But I've been cataloging them as we got them, so... I don't know. Karen's muted. Do you know you're muted, Karen? I'll bet she stepped
yes,
away.
I know I'm muted, or I was. I was dealing with my fucking dog.
Sure, of course. The dog gets the free female privilege on this show.
She's been put to bed.
Bitch.
Yeah, no, because you know what I did? Because I was like, usually she goes out for pee, then she eats dinner, right? And then she's happy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, she wouldn't go pee. And then she ate because she wanted to eat dinner. And then I let her out after dinner to go pee. She wouldn't go pee. Then I just let her out just now. Wouldn't go pee. She's like, oh, the snow's all melted and the grass feels weird on my toes. So I just I can't do it.
You're sure?
And so I was like, you can fucking go downstairs. You are not the princess in the pee. So
I don't know, man. It sounds like your dog is starting to get real pee shy there. Is sure she even needs to go?
She should. She hasn't been out since before noon.
No boy.
And she's eaten and drank a bunch of water. So I mean, she should need to go out and do both jobs. But it's just she's just no. It just it doesn't feel right. She's so fucking annoying that way. Yeah, no. And meanwhile, I just let Borat out on the chain. I attach it to the doorknob and he just just runs around and does stuff. He comes in all terrified because some owl almost eat him. So, yeah. Oh my god, there was a person walking across the street. I'm really scared. And there was a bunny rabbit in the yard. And I was scared it was gonna eat me, and maybe it was gonna be one of those cannibalistic jackrabbits that they have in the Arctic. I don't know. But it was really scary. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the last thing I'll go over with respect to this cartoon, then, and I've taken it off the screen. Everybody's seen it. So, this is something Allison and I talked about this when I brought it up as a topic, and she pointed out, women simultaneously want the value of being the princess that's above the corporate ladder, right? And the expendability that's required to climb the corporate ladder, and that's something that I think a lot of feminists don't think about. That in order to get to the top and be responsible for the entire company and be accountable for every decision you make regarding it, you have to be somewhat expendable. And a lot of men who climb to the top of the corporate tower, and this is another thing Allison pointed out, they're climbing that ladder, that social ladder, that financial ladder, and that accountability ladder, responsibility ladder, because they're wanting to put themselves in a better position to earn the attention of the princess.
Yeah, for mating.
The woman that is a good woman to be a partner with.
Yeah.
So they want to be the prize, but they want to be the person who wins the prize.
Yeah, no, it's really annoying because basically feminists are squeezing men out. But when I look at the fallout from this, and it's going to start falling out very soon, because this financial crisis that we're having, that it did not begin with COVID. It did not begin with the lockdowns, right? The financial crisis that we're having is the financial crisis caused by you just go watch my freaking video Fempocalypse. Just give it a watch, give it a rewatch if you've watched it before. But when you look at the cumulative net contribution into the tax system, so how much money you've put in over a lifetime versus how much you've taken out, right? So if you start off with a bank account with a zero balance, for 25 years, both boys and girls, right? Young men and women, they pull out the same amount pretty much. And then at about age 25, the men start to shoot up, and they hit the zero balance, the breaking even at around age 40, and then they hit their peak at age 65, how much more they've put in than they've taken out. And then if they live to age 80, they break even at a zero balance, right? Okay, so you can say to yourself, well, men, like they don't, cumulatively, if they live to age 80, they haven't taken any more out of the tax system than they've put in, right?
Yep,
they've taken out the exact same amount. But
that's if they get to take out, because at least in the United States, the men that are at the top of the corporate ladder, they're not going to get any Social Security income.
Well, sure, yeah, but what I'm saying is men as a group, right?
Right.
And women as a group, they hit 25, they kind of even out, right? In their overdraft of like $40,000, right? And then they start to climb a little bit to $35,000, and then if they live to age 80, negative $30,000, like owing $30,000, and then I think about $35,000 is it. Owing $35,000 is the best they do, and then if they live to age 80, they die owing the tax system $120,000.
Yeah.
So, no, we can't. This is not sustainable. This is not sustainable, and it's the reason every single Western country has been running deficits on the regular every year, right? And increasing their debt burden, right? Which our kids are going to be the ones who are going to have to pay for all of this. But our kids are going to be crippled by all of this fucking bullshit that we're dealing with now, right? That like they've been told that work is evil, and jobs are for suckers, and like the government will give you free money, and they're being taught completely retarded things in school. Career and life management for my kids, right? They come home and they're like, I'm like, what did you do today? And they're like, I made a poster for an activist event in career and life management. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, how is that career and life management? I worked with multiple girls who because career and life management is a mandatory course in high school, right? I worked with multiple girls who were either taking high school or just graduated from high school but weren't 18 yet. They were all hostesses, because you can do that without being 18 in a restaurant that serves alcohol. And they're asking me, what's a credit rating?
Oh my gosh.
And why do I need one? Right? Because like I applied for a credit card, and then I applied for another one, and then I applied for another, and I'm like, what are you fucking doing?
Yeah.
What? Because every time you apply and you're rejected, it damages your credit rating.
And then they're like, what's a credit rating?
And I'm like, oh my fucking God. And every bill you pay on time, every utility bill you pay on time does nothing for you, does not give you any good credit, right? Every bill you fail to pay on time gives you bad credit. And if you hold a joint mortgage with, the primary signatory on the mortgage, right? He gets all the good credit, but you equally share the bad credit with him, right? Like, so you need to know what this is and what's it good for. Getting a car loan, getting a credit card, being able to buy a house, like being able to rent an apartment. Jesus fuck. What are they teaching you in school? Well, like there was this one time that they had us design vanity plates.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't even have a fucking driver's license. What do you need?
They're not teaching them anything.
Jesus Christ. And then we made paper out of jeans, that old used jeans that we put in a blender. And we made them on a screen, the paper. out of used jeans.
I'm assuming that the teacher was female.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't
They're all
actually have to
female.
educate the class, just has to have interesting things, interesting
Yeah,
projects.
arts and crafts and
Yeah.
open-ended busy work. And
Good
like,
grief.
I was just like, what the fuck are they teaching you guys? And like, how does somebody come out of a mandatory career and life management course without an idea of how to open a checking account? What documents do you need to open a checking account? What is a credit rating? Why do you need one? What's it good for? And how do you maintain it? Right? These are basic fucking life skill questions. And it's just like home economics. Well, we'll teach you how to make muffins and other things that'll give you diabetes.
Yep. But I think
Because the ingredients are cheap. So
I think we pretty much established that the topic tonight was just a suggestion.
yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, this is all fucking connected. It's all connected, and all of this shit, like, because career and life management, right? The curriculum, that's about female sensibilities. I don't think any man, well, okay, maybe some woke man would be like, let's make paper from blended jeans, right? No, you wouldn't be doing that. You'd be teaching them how to balance a budget. And honestly, like, every single female teacher, bar two, there were 2 female teachers of my kids that were absolutely exemplary. They were like absolutely stunningly wonderful, right? Just creative but tough and able to handle the boys in the class and their rambunctiousness and all of that stuff, right?
Right.
And so I have 3 kids, 2 notable female teachers. I have 3 kids. There were 7 notable male teachers. And consider that in a situation where 90% of the teachers are female.
And now imagine if you were running kids through a system, right, from the time they're little kids till they're about to embark on their journey as adults in life. And a set of people is responsible for a significant portion of the preparation for those kids to go into adult life and be ready to have jobs and be ready to raise families, pay their bills, pay their taxes, all that stuff, right? And the majority of the people in the profession who are supposed to be prepping those kids for adult life, doing all the things that are over and above what the parents do in prepping those kids, thought of themselves as glorified babysitters who are basically assigning the kids busy work. And that was a male-dominated profession. How long would it take for them to be viewed as predators just on the basis of that behavior?
Yeah. No, and I'm just looking at it like, my kids didn't learn anything about taxes in career and life management.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My high school American history teacher also was the economics teacher, and he did projects and stuff like that, but his projects were directly related to aspects of economics. So for kids to understand how the stock market worked, he ran them through a 6-week project where they invested imaginary money and did the math and the calculations themselves over a 6-week period on how their imaginary money grew or shrank. And he explained every aspect of the workings of the stock market through that imaginary investment in real mutual funds and real companies. And so they had everything was just on paper in the classroom. But when I would go into class with my American history classmates, we would see over on the sideboard where he kept a running sort of commentary on what was going on, with these kids' projects. We would see, the work that he had done with one of the companies they used as an example was Disney. So we knew what was going on with Disney because the economics students were learning that from the American history teacher, and everybody had to take American history. And to be honest, I actually personally learned things about how the stock market worked from asking him questions about the stuff he had on the board before and after class because I was curious. And I didn't even take economics. So I learned some of that terminology and everything at 17 years old because, even though I wasn't in that class, my teacher was perfectly happy to explain it and everything. So those were things that we did. And, in American history, we did the curriculum. We followed the curriculum. But we also brought in information. We did reports on people from history. We made a timeline. We kept a timeline. We memorized things that needed to be memorized. If he had come along and said, well, we're going to, make paper the way they made paper back in the 1920s, then he would have had to have a reason, something that we were learning about the history of the United States, the significance of this method, why this was so hard. There would have had to have been something he was attached to. Meanwhile, I had female teachers that had us do projects that were remotely related to the topic, the subject of the class, but didn't really tie into anything. We didn't have a lesson that the project was based on that we were supposed to come out of it with. And that's supposed to be part of the rubric. What is the student getting out of this project? And it was a significant difference that I noticed. Now, I had some great female teachers. I also had some great male teachers. But I also had something else happen with male teachers that was different than with female teachers. My senior year in high school, I got really sick. And I had a couple of years where that happened to me because my immune system was crap. But I also had, in my family we have, on my mom's side of the family, we have this deficiency or whatever, I don't know, a defect, where the septum grows faster than the outside of the nose. So it deviates, and then it blocks off the sinus, and you get this sinus infection that creates an immense amount of pressure in your sinuses. And eventually threatens to damage your eyesight by bursting into your eye socket.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really bad. And the solution for it is they go in, they break your nose, they straighten it, they drill the sinuses back into your nasal cavity so they can drain properly, and they irrigate them to clean out the infection. And all of us have had to have that surgery at some point in our lives, and I had mine when I was a senior in high school, and I was out for 6 weeks. So it was really bad. It was right around the time we were singing Handel's Messiah in choir, and holy shit, when the sopranos hit the high note in the Hallelujah chorus, my whole face would just vibrate. It was bizarre. The liquid in there acts really weird in response to sound waves. But in any case, so I was out for 6 weeks. I had male teachers and I had female teachers. And I had 3 male teachers who helped me get through that 6 weeks. One of them gave me his teacher's notes for the subject matter so that I could study them and gain an understanding of the material. And that was my my literature teacher. They basically showed me everything I needed to get out of the reading, and then I had my chemistry and physics teacher. He came in. He had me stay after school for an hour, and he came in every day for like 3 weeks to catch me up. So I stayed after school every day for 3 weeks. And I came in an hour ahead every day for 3 weeks because my calculus teacher came in and tutored me to catch me up. None of my female teachers offered that. And in fact, my female choir director, The last day I attended school before I went in and got the diagnosis that led to my surgery was a day that I had choir, and it's it's very dizzying to have your sinuses full of fluid. And I was getting nauseous, and I was about to pass out, basically, from the sensation of having my face vibrated by the sound waves hitting me. And I was an alto, so I was sitting directly across. The sopranos were facing me. And we had some really talented girls in the class that their voices were very powerful, and it was really I understand what a sonic attack in video games and Dungeons and Dragons is really like. We'll just put it that way. And my classmate drew my teacher's attention to the fact that I looked like I was going to pass out. I was white as a sheet. You could tell I was sick. I couldn't sit up straight, and I was actually swaying in my seat from not being able to keep my balance even though I was sitting down. So my teacher sent me alone down the hall, up the stairs, back down the hall to the office, and did not have somebody accompany me the way usually they have someone accompany you to the office if you're really sick. And I twice completely lost vision. When you pass out, there's from being dizzy and stuff like that, there's your eyesight disappears for a second before you pass out. And I hit that point where it just closed in like an old-fashioned television turning off twice. I couldn't stand up without holding on to something because nothing was the up and down were not correct for me. And when I finally did get to the office, I got into the doorway and ended up sitting on the floor because I couldn't make it to the desk without falling over because up and down were not correct for me. And that teacher sent me out of that classroom by myself. She didn't even ask if I needed somebody to walk with me. And because she was so focused on the material, on having the students do the music perfectly, she didn't notice how sick I was. She didn't even notice I was pale. Meanwhile, my journalism teacher, I actually had to explain to him what my physical condition was during really bad PMS because he kept trying to send me with a classmate to the office to call the doctor because I looked bad when I was having really bad cramps one month. And I finally had to say, no, I deal with this every month. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Because he was worried.
Yeah.
So that total difference in noticing the condition of the student and being prepared to, sacrifice a few minutes with a student or call somebody down. She should have called somebody down from the office to get me because she had a phone in her classroom. But she didn't do any of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, big difference.
Yeah, well, I just want to take this moment to apologize to Mr. Williams, if you're out there, because my son was a Class A troll. He used to sit in in his other classes and just email Mr. Williams minion teacher memes, and also used to use his Mr. Williams email to sign up for random flyers online. And
there you go.
I apologize, Mr. Williams. He's a pain in the ass.
Well, 3 cheers for Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams probably handled it.
He came down
fine.
one time. He came down one time. It was after about 6 months of this. He came down to my son's computer science class, and was just in the middle of one of his own classes. He just came down the stairs. He came into the class and he said, "Sam, I'm going to need you to stop sending me emails." And then he just walked out. So
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
But
My dad, when he was teaching, he'd have boys in his class that would try to troll him. Obviously they couldn't email him because email didn't exist until, I suppose they could have emailed him at the end of his teaching career. But he retired in 90. I want to say he retired in 96. So it was actually expensive to get online and email people for most of the time prior to that, when it did exist. But he had students that would play pranks on him and everything, and his response was to play pranks right back.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There was nobody that could out prank my dad. So and
there you go.
The way that he had explained a lot of what he did with the boys when he was teaching was this actually is a great way to stimulate the students' problem-solving abilities, their strategizing, and so on. And you need that in your career. You need to be a strategist in your career. You need to be a strategist in your financial planning too. And so if you're exercising your ability to strategize, even just in playing mutual pranks with the teacher, you're actually developing life skills, very important life skills. So teachers should not discourage pranking as long as it doesn't get out of hand in a way where it's interfering with the student's other classroom capabilities. And he had conflicts with female teachers over stuff like this. Not the pranking thing, but the control over the students. He had a student who his area of interest was automotive repair technology, right? He was going to be a mechanic. And this was during the 70s, so they didn't call them, automotive repair techs. They didn't call it, they were mechanics. In fact, they were lucky they didn't call them grease monkeys. And
and it was called auto shop.
Right. But his student that was like his whole life. Everything he did was about his cars and his, fixing cars and fixing them up, making them look nice, taking care of them, making them fast, using them, to be fast and all that kind. Like that was it. And he wasn't a very skilled reader, but he would look at muscle mags and all the car mags. So Dad, for what he did was, this kid's reading assignments were all going to be write a paper explaining to me how to do this repair technique. What is entailed in switching out an engine? What is entailed in repairing the brakes on a vehicle, this type of vehicle. And the kid would get the book for that particular car, and he would go through and he would give a step-by-step explanation. Or he would get magazine articles about, several magazine articles about this particular type of repair, and write a complete description of the repair, the things that can go wrong with it, the things that you need to watch out for, the ways to make it easier for yourself, every angle. And he had a librarian at the school that was not letting him have access to those magazines because she looked down on that kind of work. And she thought he was just doing this for entertainment. And basically she treated it like he was sitting in the back reading a comic book. Which comic books in and of themselves are not necessarily not literature either. Some of the greatest stories out there are told in comic books, not print text, not just print media. And so Dad ended up having to go down and have a conversation with the librarian, explaining that this boy's assignments involved the use of those magazines and access to the library lending system where he could get the repair book for a particular car so that he could write a research paper or an essay on those topics. And of course she was mad because she thought that was the kid getting around the rules, bending the rules, and reading entertaining stuff on school time. But she had romance novels in there girls were doing book reports on. And she never did figure out the importance of, here's this kid's life path and his future, what he's going to do with his life. And the teacher has figured out how to stimulate the student's interest in reading.
Yeah.
Like, and he developed
And
his reading
communicating.
skills and
Yeah,
communicating.
reading, writing, communicating. Yeah.
Right, around that life path that that the student has chosen. Yeah,
No,
it
it's
was
it's like
ridiculous.
the same with my kids, right? Because my first two kids, they were both very, 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 very early precocious readers, right? Like Jack was reading by the time he was 2. We didn't really teach him anything. We just put on PBS in the mornings, and like there's all kinds of programs on there that teach you how to read. And with Rachel, she picked it up at 18 months. She started sounding out words that she could, the written word. And so like, but what we had stepsons, and one of them played World of Warcraft, and he brought his giant freaking phone book sized strategy manual, World of Warcraft strategy manual, over, and so Jack's sitting there. He's like 4 years old. He's sitting on the goddamn toilet for 45 fucking minutes reading the World of Warcraft strategy manual, and I'm like, what? Like, what is this? The only novels he ever got interested in were the Ender novels and the Halo novels, right? But other than that, it's just like my dad, right? His entire bookshelf was filled with Van Nostrand's Scientific Encyclopedia and Hitler's War, and a whole bunch of other, like, I like football and porno and books about war, except he didn't really watch porno and he didn't watch football, but he really liked books about war. Like it was all nonfiction. And what I think one of the things that a lot of teachers don't realize, because they're all, basically forcing boys to hone their reading and communication and cognitive skills by reading fiction. Yeah, men are the smallest fiction market out there.
Yeah.
Like they're some of the best novelists are men, like absolutely 100%. And there are men who are like avid readers of fiction, but for the most part, boys and men prefer nonfiction. They prefer
Our bathroom
reading.
had a stack of history books in it that can attest to that fact.
Yeah, or even just the bathroom reader, or horrible histories, or whatever. Those I would I would recommend the horrible histories books for anyone with children aged 5 to 12, because they just sort of describe, what was life like in the Victorian times as an 8-year-old child, like, and things like that, right? In the working class. But yeah, no, it was, and they talk about Elizabeth Bathory, and they talk about, Vlad the Impaler, and they talk about all of these horrible things, but with goofy
you
drawing.
don't want to read about Vlad the Impaler in the bathroom. That might actually cause you to become constipated.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, but like these were the books that my older two wanted to read, and so I was just like, oh, we'll get them lots of those books. Like none of them have ever been particularly interested in novels, right? Like I bought my daughter the Aragon series, like Aragon the Dragon, or whatever his name was, right? I bought her that trilogy, and she never even cracked it. You know what she picked up to read on the bus on her way to high school?
What?
Adam Jones, Gender Inclusive.
Okay.
And then the second one she picked up was that Paul Nathanson, Catherine Young. The first one, God, of the misandry series. She picked that one up, read it on the bus on the way to school, and then she picked up David Geary's Male Female: the Evolution of Human Sex Differences.
I read. I didn't read very much when I was on the bus because of eyesight issues.
Car
but
sickness?
Yeah. But I used to take Shutterbug magazine with me because I could read, I could skim the articles and read about how the photographer did the framing, the lighting, what lens they used and stuff like that to get the images. And most of the time nobody bothered me for having Shutterbug. Once in a while there would be articles on portraiture, and they would have the articles on capturing the physical form of the human body. They did not have nudes in the magazine, at least not the ones that I had access to. But then I would get, Hannah's looking at this or Hannah's looking at that. But, because a lot of times when they're trying to display capturing the human form without having it be nudes, it's somebody in a leotard or something like that. And no, look, this is about this lens and how it captures this level of clarity, and or how it captures, it's this sharp, or the wide aperture allows for this particular type of effect, and not anything to do with this person's butt that you're looking at.
I know,
but
it's like, but I'm just looking at it. I'm like, like there, and the teachers in the classrooms, right? Like, Jack's math teacher in grade 10. 10. He pulled me aside one day and he said, so Jack and I just wanted to run it past you. Jack and I have worked out a deal, right? He does I usually assign 30 problems per class that the students have to do, 30 equations that they have to solve, right? And I've told Jack that if he just takes the last 5 of those and gets them right, he can read a novel for the rest of the class. Is that okay? Like a Halo novel is what Jack was into at the time. And I was like, oh, fuck, thank God. Thank God, because I don't want him to hate math.
Yeah.
But if you beat somebody who understands math over the head with math constantly to prove that they know math, that's not a recipe for someone actually developing a love of math.
No, it's a recipe for them feeling like they're being punished for being adept at the subject and having the ability to understand it without doing busy work. And
or practice work.
Right.
Yeah.
It does create a resentment in the student. In fact, I actually dropped out of the program that I consider this a huge misnomer, because it was really just for kids that were good at reading and math. But the gifted program, they didn't do anything for the students that I had classmates that their artistic skill surpassed that of most adults who, had learned, who had trained in it, right? And my art teacher loved it. Her daughter was my classmate, and she would give them all kinds of extra assignments, and she nurtured them. But the programs that the school came up with for students who were supposedly gifted, and a lot of kids in the gifted class were just kids that were ahead in math and reading, which you can be without being super intelligent. You just pick it up really fast and then you stop progressing. Which happens a lot, actually. And but they didn't do anything for students that were great at, naturally great at the things that you needed to be good at in order to perform well in art class or in music class, or nothing. They didn't have anything for talented musicians, nothing for talented singers, nothing for students that had particularly pleasing voices, nothing, right? Just the readers and the mathematicians. And then they gave us busy work, and it was crap busy work. It wasn't even stimulating busy work. so I dropped out of it. They got mad at me. Like, why would you care? You're just giving us, you're babysitting us. Why would you care if I want my regular teacher to babysit me instead of the gifted class teacher to babysit me? My regular teacher is doing far more interesting things in the classroom. But yeah, that was all female led. The person who ran the gifted program was a woman, and she did nothing interesting. They had 2 male teachers who could have run the gifted program and actually gotten the students to do things that would bring them, again, life skills. But they didn't toot their own horns, so they didn't get the program. And of course, the woman was, quote, brilliant because she gave us those logic puzzles where you have a set of people and a set of professions, and they give you a set of clues, and you're supposed to figure out who does what job. Which I liked those puzzles when I was 8. Really kind of grew out of them by the time I was an adult. Actually, by the time I was 11. And that was the most exciting thing we did in class.
There you go.
There you go. But yeah, this is basically, when you go back and look at the things that we've described, again, if this was male-led, a male-led system, and I'm sure that you'll hear from feminists that the education system is run by men because there are male administrators at the principal level and the superintendent level, right? But the school boards, if you go to a school board meeting, are mostly women. The teachers are mostly women. The teachers' unions are mostly run by women. And it's the teachers' unions that determine the curriculum, not the school board, not the principal, not the...
Well, and the people training the teachers
right,
in universities.
who are also mostly women.
Also mostly women, yeah.
Yep. And women have the privilege of having their intentions matter than the outcome of their choices. So if women claim that they are trying to do things for the students, they are trying to achieve results for the students, they want the students to have benefits from what they're doing, and they want the students to have a good educational experience, you're not allowed to criticize. And you're sexist if you start saying that, hey, because these women are not accountable for the outcomes that their students experience, the students are actually losing their right to a good education. You get called sexist, right? You're going to get called a misogynist.
Yeah, well, but the problem is, Hannah, is that society is white supremacist and it's male supremacist, and we need to and also cis heteronormative supremacist.
Oh yes.
And we need to teach and also barefaced supremacist. We need to teach children that they need to be ashamed if they're white and demoralized if they're black. And we need to teach them that they are they need to be scared if they're not wearing a mask, or if they see someone who's not wearing a mask. We need to teach them all of these things. Like I'm just, like the last 2 years, right? Because I was pretty burnt out after 2017 or 2019 rather. After ICMI 19, I was pretty fucking burnt out, right? And then all this bullshit hit with COVID, and now I am like black pilled as fuck. So I'm just gonna say to all you people out there who might be listening, I think you should consider sending in some shekels, because, and I don't shill. I'm not one to shill. I've never shilled on my channel. I just don't. I've only shilled for other people.
Right.
But There is some shit that's gonna go down soon.
Yeah.
And we need to actually pull together and keep afloat. And there are white pills to be found, in rare places, but
And we're gonna find them.
yeah, but they're getting fewer and farther between, and you need somebody to actually go looking for them. So
there you are.
Yeah.
And speaking of shekels, we have some super chats, and I think we probably ought to go over them.
Yes,
we have
because I have to go pretty quick.
So, yep.
I have already been on with Allison for like 2.5 hours today.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, no, it's been quite the day.
Been a day. Alrighty, so we will start with our first super chat of the night, which actually came from Rumble. So I don't know what they call them. I think it's
Rumble Rant.
Rumble Rant or something like that. Yeah.
Rumble Rants. Yes.
So we got a Rumble Rant from Kind Torment, who gave us $2 and said Smeckles for the Badgers. Then we got.
Oh, that's so nice because they only took 40 cents.
Yep, and we got a chat from Egregious Charles at $5, who said Jada is going to use this incident to claim abuse and get more in the divorce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. He embarrassed me in front of the entire world. What an abusive man. Yeah.
There's already been a news story come out about her speaking for the first time since the incident. Like, oh God, I knew that was coming. And like, okay, what did she say about it? So I went and I read the article, and it was this dumb fucking article about something that she said on Instagram that didn't actually trace back to the incident. Something about it being a time for healing and I'm here for it. She didn't even reference the incident. It wasn't about the incident. They made it about the incident. The writer made it about the incident by mentioning the incident in the story. But somehow she's going to be able to say that is Will Smith's fault and not the fault of the people that are making the incident bigger than it was.
Oh, well, the incident was pretty big.
Right.
I'm gonna tell you that the incident was like that was some fucking next level entitlement. To be able to walk up on stage and hit somebody. It's like I earned $40 million from my last movie that only made $28 million in its first year since its release. So I can do whatever the fuck I want, except unless my wife gets upset, and then I do what she signals to me to do.
Yeah, and it was a big incident, but it was a big incident that took place in a largely irrelevant setting. As far as the public is concerned, most of us don't give a shit about these awards shows, right? We don't give a shit what actors in Hollywood are doing to congratulate each other for their work. It's big to them. And the incident itself was largely just stupid. And most people, I think, are just gawking at it. And when you really get down to it, it's petty to take the first thing that she says after the incident happened and say, well, we have to find a way to relate that to this incident, even though she didn't. That was really unnecessary, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically, she's going to be able to claim to be overshadowed by it, not because he is overshadowing her or anything like that, but because the talking heads of Hollywood are going to make everything she does about this now. I don't really feel bad for her for that.
No, I think rightly so. I think they rightly should do that.
She really
because she instigated.
This. Yeah,
she instigated an incident that killed a stellar career.
Yeah.
And because I really think he's going to be damaged by this, and basically embarrassed everybody involved, when she could have just taken it with grace, taken one on the chin, laughed about it. If you look at some of the roasts, the roast of William Shatner, the roast of Donald Trump, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
my
and
gosh.
you look at that, like, this is why I'm like, yeah, we need Lisa Lampanelli to host the Oscars, because that bitch is just she's just freaking next level mean. And and Ricky Gervais was just like, okay, I haven't been invited back next year to host the Golden Globes, so
Yeah.
now I'm gonna do some shit, right? So
It's sad. The whole thing is sad. But yeah, like I said, I don't feel sorry for her. But and
no.
she probably will use the incident that way. And in reality, the abuser honestly was her.
Oh,
Um,
I'm sure that that relationship is a lot like Johnny Depp's relationship with Amber Heard.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Maybe without the physical abuse, but plenty of psychological abuse. So,
yeah. Dang it, I lost a name here. Let me see if I have it. I knew that was going to happen when the whole thing shut down. Let me see if I've got it. Hothead Studios. There we go. Nope. That was the one above it. Huh.
uh-oh.
Oh, I see. I just copied the same thing twice. That's why. Okay, Hothead Studios gave us $5 and said the balding buzzard should have wore a hat. Problem solved. Actually, she did. She wore. It wasn't a hat. It was a scarf tied like a ribbon, and
Um
so she had her head kind of covered, accentuated more than anything.
no, that I don't think that was her. The one that they focused on after he did it,
Yeah.
who was sitting kind of like
Was
one
she
row back.
completely uncovered,
No,
or
no,
was I just
she was
seeing it
she
on?
was no, she was completely uncovered.
Yeah.
And then it shows a close up of him in his seat yelling,
Yeah.
right? And that is not Jada Pinkett Smith. That is
Okay. Okay.
somebody else. Yeah, who's happens to be sitting one seat over and one seat behind him,
Yeah,
wearing a
I
different
just saw
dress.
I just put the hat on her head in my mind then. But
Yeah, no, me too. But I had to go back and look
and
at it.
look.
I was like,
Well, but
but
she made the point of saying that she doesn't care about this kind of stuff, right? She's gonna be loud and proud about being bald, until somebody makes
yeah,
a joke about her head, and then she's gonna get upset.
yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. It's like me, uh, freaking like anybody can make any joke about my physical appearance. I got
Yeah,
knobby knees, I got skinny legs, I got skinny arms. They're not my fault. I had long COVID. It involved a bunch of heart symptoms. I had to take a year of no physical exertion. I lost a lot of muscle mass. And because every time I did anything strenuous, I was going to keel over from a fucking heart attack. Right? So,
well, see, I
um,
know somebody else that happened to too.
yeah,
That the virus attacks it attacks your cardiopulmonary system, not
yeah,
just
everything,
your
everything.
lungs. So
Yeah, no,
that was a hell of a thing. Um,
if it gets into your blood, it causes hypertension,
right.
myocarditis, pericarditis, irregular heart rhythm, um, uh, arrhythmia, dysrhythmia, freaking breathlessness, because you
Yeah.
end up with these weird amyloid clots that don't dissolve and they're just circulating through your system. And when some of your red blood cells are buried on the inside of clots, the little oximeter that they put on your finger, the pulse oximeter, um, it just detects the color of your red blood cells. Well, it's not detecting the fact that
You're
a
low
third
on
of your
oxygen.
a third of your red blood cells are
Yeah.
trapped inside of clots and not carrying oxygen to your tissues and carbon dioxide away, and you can't detect it with a normal blood assay. You have to actually do a blood smear to detect these fucking clots, and it's like, and they're just discovering this now.
Yeah. See,
And
I know what that a little bit of what that's like. I had pericarditis when I was 8 years old,
mhm,
and recovering from it was just an infection in the lining around the heart,
yeah,
and it just recovering from it was unbelievable. Like it didn't seem like it was that bad. The one symptom that got me diagnosed was I was having chest pain,
yeah,
and every time I breathed in, it hurt. And
Oh.
but I went to the hospital, and they started looking. They were really confused how I got pericarditis. That was kind of a weird thing. I had one family member who had it, and it wasn't supposed to be contagious, right? But I got it anyway, because me.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it does.
but
It makes you're down for so long, and everything.
Yeah.
If you're not getting enough oxygen, nothing in your body works right. You get
yeah, even if
confused,
your lung capacity can be like 100%, like
Right.
just perfect, but you don't, and your blood volume might be, and your red blood cell count might be like perfect, but if you have these weird undissolvable amyloid microclots floating around in your system, yeah, your blood's not carrying anything
Yeah.
to your tissues, so you get muscle weakness, and you
It's
get
like
fatigue, and you get breathlessness, because it's not your blood that's hypoxic, it's your tissues that are hypoxic,
right.
and
It's like your warehouse is full, right? Your warehouse is getting plenty of stuff to deliver, and the vehicles are going to and from the warehouse just fine, right? And you got plenty of vehicles. The vehicles are not in short supply, but the doors are all frozen shut. So when you get
Yeah.
them to the store, they can't get the supplies out and put them on the shelves. So the store's empty, and nobody can figure out why.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. It was a horrible 15 months for me.
Yeah.
And then just as I was getting over it, and going back to doing normal things, I made the mistake of bringing in my green bin from the curb in the pitch dark at 7:30 a.m. and tripped over a tree branch that fell off my neighbor's fucking tree, the one that infiltrates my pipes, that I have to root out every fucking year, and managed to land on the one piece of concrete in the entire backyard.
Jeez. So
broke my elbow, broke my knee.
Jeez. Which is always it's always good to have broken bones when you're middle-aged or older. Like that's always the best time to break a bone. It's not not when you're a kid when you heal fast. Nope. Wait till after
and
your body
rebuilding
slows
muscle
down.
mass is like so easy when you're postmenopausal. So
brilliant, Karen. Good job.
I know, eh?
I see. At least I did all that stuff when I was a little kid, and my body was like, "All right, we're gonna deal with this shit. Bounce back." I
broke my back. I broke my back as a kid and walked home.
Yeah. Well,
and
I tried.
It was like,
I tried to
and then
walk
I
off
went
a
to
broken
bed,
tailbone.
and I went to sleep. I went to bed, went to sleep, woke up the next day, went to school, and everything was fine. This is my mother-in-law again. God damn it!
No.
Again. Anyway, I'm gonna have to go because I actually do have to talk to her, but and it has been more than 2 hours, so I'm gonna leave you and Lauren on this note. Please give thank yous to everybody from me, and now I have
even me,
my mother-in-law.
Jeez.
Oh,
back in time in one day. This is
Jesus. Yeah, no,
well, thanks for sticking with us for the amount of time that you were able to, Karen, and we are
not
going
quite
to the next super
the
chat.
long sausage.
even me, Karen.
Sorry?
We're still on air.
Even me, Karen.
Oh, even you directly responsible.
You're okay. You are directly responsible for many, many things. Yeah. Okay. So you carry the conversation forward.
Oh my goodness. I will carry the conversation forward.
French honey badger.
Lauren will carry the conversation forward. And
all right.
okay.
All right. Good night, you guys.
Good night, Karen.
Good night, Karen. We have. Let's see. Where was I? We got. The balding buzzard should have worn a hat. Meredith G gave us $5 and said, "Honey for the Badgers. Thanks for the great conversation." And then Albert Nader Retro, where am I on that? Gave us $5 and said, "Jennifer Grey, Dirty Dancing, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, got her nose done and it ended her career." Yes, I remember that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. She was unusual looking, and it made her pretty, and it made her look vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And then she got the cute little button nose, and it killed her career. Like, you never saw her anything after that, I don't think.
No, I think she might have did a couple of projects, but nothing that ever went, mainstream.
Yeah.
It's sad because, she was like next in line to be one of the it girls, and that was it. When she had that surgery, whew, right off the cliff.
All is vanity.
Yes.
It's sad too because like and people all understood why she did it, but when you think about it, if she'd have been a dude, people would have been like, "What would you mess with that for? It was your meal ticket."
Hmm.
And of course there have been men that have made big money on looking weird or unusual or ugly on and comically so.
Yeah.
Like and actually there are men who are not ugly naturally that have made a career out of looking comically ugly. Like I like to refer to Rowan Atkinson. He's not an ugly guy. If you just see him relaxed and talking, he's not an ugly guy, right?
Yeah.
He's a perfectly normal looking guy and can be handsome, and just depending on how he presents himself. But when he does Mr. Bean, he is comically ugly
Yeah.
because he's making the face, right? So yeah, but nope. That's a crippling effect of female privilege.
Yeah.
Let's see. Albert Nader Retro gave us $2 Canadian. Said, "Bring back Don Rickles. That'll show him." Oh gosh, he would have been killed. He would have just been like, Hulk smash.
Yeah. Man. Could you imagine him or like Rodney Dangerfield
Oh
going
my
in on
gosh.
she would she wouldn't be able to pick her face up off the floor. Oh my God.
Bruises on the bottom of her jaw. She'd have been like, "Oh my God." That would have been the end of it, man. Yeah. Well, heck, for that matter, did you ever see Carrie Fisher roast anybody?
No.
Oh my gosh, look up Carrie Fisher roasts because she roasted everybody she worked with, and she could get vicious. She was great. It was fun to watch her. And then I can't remember. I think she was roasted, and they had Kurt Cobain's girl come on. What was her name?
Courtney Love.
Courtney Love. Like, they were buddies, I guess. And they went at each other so hard, and it was fucking hilarious. Like, that's the kind of gals I used to hang out with, was gals that would do that. We picked at each other because we toughened each other up, and then nobody else could pick on us, right? But we always did it in good fun. So I was the buttless wonder. And my friends were all, they all had boobs and I didn't, so I was chestless Mahoney because the oh shit, what's it called? Breathless Mahoney. I can't think of the name of the comic. The movie for the comic came out my senior year in high school. And somebody will say it in the comments, I'm sure. But yeah, and then we had one that was, big chested, so that was the community chest, right? It's too big for one person, and we just picked on each other and stuff like that, and razzed each other all the time and everything. But it was all in good fun. If anybody looked like their feelings were hurt, then it was time for a hug, and I didn't mean it that way and that kind of thing. But you got to be able to do that in life, and you do that with your friends, so that when somebody else comes along and they're doing it to be mean, your skin is so thick they can't get through.
Right. Like watching little lion cubs, they have to play fight. They have to, bite each other, and it's all in good fun, but it's a learning process,
Yep, exactly. And it does make a big difference in your ability to handle behavior from other people in life. And it's really hard for people to be able to, Dick Tracy, there we go. It's really hard for people to be able to do that if they don't have people that can pick on them when they're younger. But yeah, that movie was funny. But and we had a blast with stuff like that when I was growing up. And yeah, Don Rickles would have had her just flat. She would have been, oh my god. Albert Nader Retro gave us $10 Canadian and said, I believe Professor Edward Dutton made some ignorant comments about men who want to work with kids in an interview with Brian on Fireside Chat segment. I managed to miss that, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's a conservative, because conservatives have this idea that men shouldn't want to work with children lately, which is weird because people used to understand that it was important for men to work with children. And now people don't. Then we have Polaris589 gave us $10 and said, have a tenor in these unbreaded times. Unbreaded and unleaded, since we're all being told to buy electric cars so we can save $80 a month on gasoline and spend $90 a month on our electric bill. And for the privilege of that, you spend $900 a month on a car loan.
On a new car? No, yeah.
Yeah. And if the
Brilliant.
battery goes bad, you're fucked, because they can't fix it. They have to get you a new one, and that might cost thousands of dollars on top of everything else.
Yeah.
So
the one thing that I do like about Tesla, though, is that if ever you have a problem with the car, they will come and pick up the car and drop off a loaner car to you, no matter where you are. It's a pretty neat thing. But yeah,
but for the price, they damn well better. Holy crap!
They goddamn better.
Like, they better service that thing like a Rolls Royce, man, because it's expensive.
You better airlift me out of wherever the hell I
am. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll stick with my van for now. I'm not gonna go out and get an electric car. And I like big, heavy vehicles that unfortunately are gas guzzlers just because they're big, heavy vehicles.
Yeah.
But I don't. My legs don't fit into tiny little cars very well. So. But in any case, I think that I have gone through all the super chats. And thanks to everybody who sent them. And hopefully I haven't missed anybody, since I and it's my fault too. I closed the damn tab that I was tracking them in.
No.
But I don't think anything disappeared. I just accidentally copied the same one twice. Once with and once without the name. So with that, I will thank my two co-hosts for sticking out the long sausage, although Karen can't hear me because she didn't stick out the end. But she couldn't. And I will thank everyone who stuck out the long sausage with us and listened to the whole show. Thanks to everyone who works in the background to make HBR Talk happen. And good night, all.
Good night.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.